Hey everybody, this is Robert. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today. I'm actually on the north side of the river, just for Laura. No drawbridge. I swam across, kept my camera, my phone, and all my clothes dry. I'm just that good. But I'm here today to do the ReRead Book Tag. I did a tag not too long ago that's similar in nature, but this had some interesting questions. This tag was created by Just One Reader, and I was tagged by Steve Donahue, and so I'm only about 9 or 10 tags behind. So I thought I would do this one today and take you on a little walk. I'm going to cut across in a few minutes, and I'm going to go down the Las Olas Blvd shopping district this time instead of just hanging out by the river. So we'll go from there. The first question of this tag was to pick a book that I read as a child that I want to reread. And I'm not sure if I was actually a child or whether I was a young adult when I read these two books originally, but I'd like to reread both of them. And the first is The Once and Future King by T.H. White. Everybody loves a good Arthurian retelling, and T.H. White's, of course, is one of the classics. I really enjoyed the Mary Stuart retellings of these stories as well, but I think the T.H. White one is the one I would turn to if I wanted to reread. And the second one, I think I read as a teenager, and it's Watership Down by Richard Adams. I was thinking about it not too long ago, about rereading it, and then I saw Madeline Miller, the author of The Song of Achilles and Circe, make a comment on Twitter that Watership Down is just the Aeneid with rabbits. And I thought, okay, that's the perfect way to describe that book. And it made me want to reread it again. So that's the answer to the first one. I'm going to walk a little bit, and I'll be back with the second question. The second question is a book you want to reread because you didn't like it the first time. And this was an easy, immediate answer. And in fact, it's the same answer Steve Donahue had. I have read Madame Bovary several times in a couple of different translations, and every time it has bored the crap out of me. I don't know if it's the translation. I like to hope that it's the translation. It may just be that Flaubert is not for me. But recently, Natalie at We Need Honey read a newer translation of Madame Bovary, and she said I should try that if I reread it. And I'm planning to reread it as part of my 100 classics list anyway. So when I get to this one and reread it, I'm definitely going to have to try a different translation, and then I'll know for sure whether it's just the translations I haven't liked in the past, or whether indeed Madame Bovary is the dullest classic on the planet. Las Olas Boulevard is one of the, I guess, the premier downtown spots for shopping and restaurants and galleries, and it just runs about a mile or so along this boulevard that parallels the river. Question number 3 is to pick a book you want to reread because you haven't read it in a really long time. And this is really similar in idea to the tag that Amy at Polyreader started a few weeks ago. And for that video, I chose 3 titles. I chose Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children, Graham Swift's Waterland, and Thomas Keneally's Schindler's List. But I had a 4th that I wanted to choose, and so I'll use that one for this answer, and that is Rohinton Mysteries: A Fine Balance. It's another big, sweeping, epic tale of India, and I remember absolutely loving it. And Jason at Chapter and Verse was talking about Rohinton Mystery last night, that he hasn't written anything in forever, but I still remember that book so fondly. I would like to reread it someday. The 4th question is to choose a book you want to reread because you didn't understand it the first time. And for that, I'm going to choose 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I had to read this in preparation for my doctoral exams. And during that year, you're reading so many books. Basically, you're reading a book a day to try to get through the entire list for the exam in the spring. That I didn't really give it the kind of time and attention that book probably demands. And so at some point I'd like to reread that one and go back and see if I have a better experience with it than I did. For the longest time, somebody would ask me about that book and I would just flippantly say it's 99 years too long. But that's me probably more than the book. So I would like to go back and reread that. Since reading that, I did read Chronicle of a Death Foretold, and found that one fascinating. Of course, it's very brief, so maybe it's a size thing for me more than the actual magic realism, but I am going to go back and give his classic a try. The 5th question is a book that you think would be better on a reread, or that you would want to reread a second time to make it better. And for that one, I think I'll choose a book that was pretty easy the first time, Yad Jesse's Homegoing. But when I first read it, I remember being a little bit frustrated and not being able to keep all the different family connections among all the many generations straight in my head. And so going back and rereading it a second time, I think I would get even more out of the first half of the book than I did when I read it the first time. Okay, that's a little glimpse of the shopping area down on Las Olas Boulevard. It really picks up at night, of course, when all those restaurants and bars start to get crowded. I am walking, I'm kind of cutting through some back streets to get back to the river, and I'm going to head back home because it is steamy as all get out here today. The 6th question, the last question, is to choose a book that you'll reread for the rest of your life. And as I've said in a couple of other videos, I'm not one who's a big rereader. In the past, the only time I really reread books was when I was either having to write about them or I was teaching them. And so I I don't know. The book that comes to mind is probably my favorite novel of all time, and I've said this before too. That's Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. I probably would reread that one once every 2 or 3 years, just because I enjoy it so much, and I reread it not too long ago. That was to teach it, but that's still, I chose it to teach it because I love it so much. So there you have it. Those are the 6 questions for the ReRead Book Tag. I think a lot of people have done this, so I'm hesitant to tag anybody directly, but I always love watching the responses to this one. So if you haven't done it and you're interested in these questions, please do it. I'd love to see it. When I get back to the river, I'll give you one last shout out, and that'll be it for today. That's going to do it for me today. I'll be back with you on Friday for my Friday reads, and then I will see you on Sunday for the read along of A Question of Upbringing by Anthony Powell. I hope your week's going well, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.